But okay, I think we have Mr. Adar Poonawalla from the Serum Institute of India on the show right now. Adar, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. Help us understand what's the rationale behind a stake buy in Magma Fincorp.
So, I've always felt that the potential in India for the financial sector and the unmet needs of our people and our nation is so big that we definitely should be getting into this business. We started Poonawalla Finance 2 years ago. And then to scale up and to have everything that Magma has, the general insurance, the housing finance business, and of course the other sectors and territories that Magma has built over many, many years under Mr. Chamaria, who's done an excellent job. And so that's why we chose Magma. And, there aren't many good, well-run NBFCs out there. So this was the reasoning behind the deal. Hello?
I remember the last time we spoke, you had already talked about the potential and the opportunity that you saw in the financial space and the kind of growth tick that you were already seeing at Poonawalla Finance. Talk to us about the kind of opportunity you see here now.
So as I said, it's unlimited because the way the economy is going to grow in double digits and the needs for businesses and professionals and individuals to fulfill their dreams and needs and their spending, this is a huge growth potential area we see over the next decade at least, if not longer, in India. So, as the economy is going to grow and all the needs that are required to go with that, this is an area where, and again, don't forget, there's a huge void that that we all saw with certain other NBFCs going belly up. And, so that's also created that space for new entrants to come in and fill that space.
Fair enough. I mean, clearly this is going to be hugely beneficial for Magma. Adar, what's the kind of scale of operations that you envision as things start running? Share with us some of the immediate, operational targets that perhaps you have, or how things are expected to move post this acquisition.
So, at this moment, I can't speak a lot on a listed company, which has still got to go through all the regulatory approvals for us to come in. And we're still waiting for the shareholders nod and all of that. But after that, we can get into it. But I think just generally speaking, what I have in mind is that I don't want to get into large ticket loans, real estate sector, corporates and all that going into crores of rupees. Magma is operating at a level, on an average of a few lakhs, up to 50 lakhs being the higher ticket loans. And that's just the space we want to be in. That's what Poonawalla Finance was also doing. So that's where we feel we can manage our risk and also serve the needs of the nation. And in terms of growth targets, growing at 20-25% a year to start with would be a good way to start, a good place to start. And, the existing promoter, Mr. Chamaria, has been always very conservative, and that's what we like. We want to be conservative, but of course, scaling up and growing is also something that we want to do from the size that we're at the moment. So we'll talk about that once I'm officially a shareholder and all the RBI and SEBI nods are taken, because it's inappropriate for me to comment, given my position right now.
Of course, Adar, completely understand. I'd rather, also get a sense of your vision, because we had an insight to this as well, before the acquisition, when we spoke about your plans for finance. And I remember, given the kind of growth that you were seeing, you were also looking at a more, a broader play in time to come. So in the longer term, do you see this also expanding to across geographies within India? Do you see perhaps finance becoming quite a critical arm in terms of one of the businesses that you're looking to focus on?
No, absolutely. I mean, our other businesses throw up cash, and we need to deploy that in the right and appropriate manner, which is risk adjusted and still giving you a good return. And Magma Fincorp already has more than 290 locations or whatever. And so we want to build on that geographically also to take care of the risk. I know there are certain areas which we might perhaps not expand on because they've traditionally had issues in this sector. So we're very careful on that. So let's see what happens.
Okay. And, while we have also, of course, already been sort of notified in terms of who's going to be, the presence on the board, but in terms of the management otherwise, will it be professionally run? Any major changes that you're looking at this stage?
Yeah, so I will be the chairman, and then you've got the vice chairman, Mr. Chamaria, and we're going to have Abhay as the MD, and we will be getting probably a professional CEO. This will be a professionally run company. There's no doubt about it. It's a listed entity. It's a space that I don't have 100% experience and expertise on. So I'm going to let the professionals do their job. But what I'm going to look at is managing the risk part that's taken care of, the areas and sectors that I feel comfortable being in, and the geographies. So I'll look at that as an overall sort of situation. And then I trust the existing people, Mr. Chamaria, of course, and who's built this over the last more than 25 years. And of course, a new team that will eventually come on board, to grow the business in areas, new products, new areas as well. And so, from that angle, I'll just oversee all of that. And, they'll probably be talking to you about earnings and targets and all of that in the subsequent months to come.
Adar, I do want to get some insight from you. And you touched upon this earlier. You touched upon how the outlook for NBFCs today is a lot brighter than it was a few months ago. Given that Magma's performance in the past has been lagging its peers, share with us some insight in terms of what you feel about some of these legacy issues. Even if it's from a broader perspective for the NBFC segment, and how you think things are better poised now. You touched upon it, but I'd just like to get a little bit more from you on that.
No, so I think certain NBFCs have been taking too much risk in areas that they wanted to grow very aggressively in. Those sectors which were stressed, then that stress came onto the NBFCs, and of course some other NBFCs had their own other issues which were mismanaged. So if we make sure that the asset liability mismatch issue is not there, focus on growth, but at the same time, Mr. Chamaria has done a great job in being very conservative, and his reputation is there for that, of trust and in running a great show that way. The earnings perhaps have not grown as aggressively because he has been conservative, but that's just what I look for in a business and a partner where it's better to be a little more cautious and not lose money and slowly grow rather than just jumping into things and then having an issue, because the financial services business, I've been warned by many people, is a very dangerous and risky area to get into because you can very easily go wrong. And we've seen that with so many NBFCs. So, I'm grateful for the lessons that all these other NBFCs have taught all of us. And we all need to be cautioned on what to do and what not to do. And that's become very clear now. Thanks to those lessons. And I don't know if we'll still make some of our own mistakes along the way, but at least we now know certainly what areas and how to manage our loan book in a way that is, that wasn't available 5 or 6 years ago. If I was to get into this business, it would have been very different. And today there's so much more digitization. So everything is happening online. You don't need to do so many things that we had to do 10 years ago in NBFCs also. So that also has attracted me to get into this space at this moment in time.
Okay, in terms of the loans, you mentioned the quantum and what you'd like to focus on in terms of, suggested sizes. What about segments? Would it be more housing then versus infra within what's currently on the books? Would you be looking at newer segments as well?
So we'll probably do a rejig. Again, I can't go into specifics because of the position I'm in at this stage, but we can talk about that later. And we've got a whole plan that'll be chalked out at that time. Of course, there will be certain segments which are a little riskier and have had issues and stress, so we'll probably stay away from those. In Poonawalla Finance, we've been growing very well. For example, in the professional loans and individual loans and the SME area. So maybe we'll focus a little bit more on those areas. But again, I can't go into too much detail right now. There might be a small rejig of the segments as well. That's all I can say at the moment.
Sure. Adar, what the markets would want to understand is that you already have a presence in the NBFC space via Poonawalla Finance, which is an NBFC based out of Pune, having presence in personal loans, business loans, etc. Is there an intent of a merger of Poonawalla Finance and the current Magma Fincorp?
No, so in fact, that was the initial plan, but that would take 6 months in terms of a High Court merger and other formalities. So we felt this is a far quicker and straightforward route. And as a joint application, as you saw from our release as well, that I would be giving up with RBI the license to lend from Poonawalla Finance. So that would stop being, that would cease to exist as a lending NBFC. The brand name would then go over to Magma, and we'd have either Poonawalla Financial Services or a renaming of some sorts with the Poonawalla brand on Magma. That's, again, subject to all the regulatory and RBI approvals, SEBI and etc., which will take 3 or 4 months. So that's what's going to happen. And our entire capital and lending business will be in the new Magma Fincorp entity, and Poonawalla Finance will cease to exist as a separate NBFC.
Okay. Fair point, because the markets were wondering whether or not, you could then eventually list Poonawalla Finance, but good that you eased out all those concerns. Would you then be infusing more capital into Magma Fincorp eventually?
Well, now it's going to have a net worth of more than 6,000 crores after our infusion. So I don't think for at least 4 or 5 years we'll need to infuse any more capital, because, it'll be well capitalized for the growth and the leverage that we plan to take over the next 4 or 5 years. With this kind of capital infusion, it'll be very easy to leverage and grow at least 20 to 25%, if not more, in the coming years. And then maybe after 4 or 5 years, if we need to, we can, because if you look at the loan book size right now, it's just over 15,000 crores. So, the debt to capital ratio and all that will be very, very conservative after our capital infusion.
I was just going to ask you that, Adar, in terms of the stress on the book. So I think you've kind of covered that. Do you also foresee in that case, also better credit ratings actually in time to come, and therefore lower cost of funds as well? Would that be a natural assumption?
Absolutely. In fact, it's not we would hope it's almost a certainty, and that was part of the whole reason where we saw value in doing this, because the cost of funds is probably close to 10%, which will bring down to 7%, after this capital infusion and our brand and so many other factors. And that will immediately affect and help the bottom line grow. I think that's obvious. And, that was one of the other immediate upsides that we saw that could come in, or rather would happen as a result of us infusing this capital. So that's definitely going to be an immediate benefit. Of course, there are certain loans that would take time to sort of pay back from Magma to the lenders. And then as that gets renewed, obviously the cost of funds would be at a much, much lower rate, with our credit rating also, which we hope to improve now. Poonawalla Finance, as you know, has a AA rating, and we get the funds at a very low cost. So, of course, that's going to be a major benefit that all the shareholders can look forward to in the coming months.
All right, Adar, great speaking with you. Thank you for taking the time out and helping us understand the implications and the opportunities here. It sounds like exciting times ahead. Thanks so much for joining us on ET Now this morning.
Thank you.